Přestože to belgický tým, tak oba zmiňovaný jezdci jsou jezdci ze Spolkové republiky Německo. Dále startují číslo 25. Je to voliter tým Benjamin Matatis a Finn Hilmary Kortivara. Startují na KTM X2 GT4. To jsme v páté startovní řadě, které odstartuje také s číslem 7. Druhý ze zmiňovaných vozů ve startovní poli značka Maserati Gran Turismo MCGT. Sky Racing Team, polský tým, který to měl včera dobře rozjeté v kvalifikaci, ale pak v té druhé kvalifikaci havaroval Matěj Marcinkiewicz a od té doby se včera...
Welcome to the second race of the opening rounds of the inaugural GT4 Central European Cup here at the Most Autodrome. Looking down at the Sin R1, which will be starting from the outside of the front row. Ivan Vlashkov driving this car solo. It's normally a two-driver race. Well, for 9 of the 13 cars that are taking part in this first ever round of the Central European Cup, it is. But he's not one of them. He's one of the 4 drivers going to be doing it, the one-hour race solo. Will have to come to a standstill between 25 and 35 minutes into this race. Freddie Kramer and Nicholas Scholl starting from the second row in their Allied Racing Porsche Cayman. It'll be Freddie Kramer taking the wheel first. What we just missed as we came on to the top of the show was Marilyn Niederhauser, who's sharing the pole starting KTM crossbow with her boyfriend Patrick Niederhauser. Then Croatian racer Franja Kovac will be starting 4th in his this year. He's moved across from a Porsche Cayman, the Beza Group racing team, now running this wonderful looking Mercedes. And Franja's sharing that this weekend, car number 20, with Thomas Pekar, one of 3 Czech drivers competing in this race. First ever round of the first ever championship. Victory yesterday went to a guest driver, so he doesn't pick up points. Hamza Awega came through right at the end, German racer in his Racing 1 Audi, but didn't get to the top step of the podium because as a guest driver he wasn't eligible to do so. So Marilyn Niederhauser and Patrick Niederhauser overjoyed with their victory, and they were followed home onto second step on the podium by Luca Volgarten and Moritz Österreich and Jörg Wiebahn and Rob Severs. Despite a spill on the final lap in the second of the Allied Racing, Porsches claimed the third spot on the podium. Looks like we're missing one car, which is the one ahead of the Lechner Racing Mercedes up at the back. Let's try and work out who that might be. Pretty fast. It looks as though it's number 7 that is missing, which is the second of the yes, it's the second of the Maseratis. We can see the better placed Maseratis, the one with the blue stripes, Scuderia Viorba course, but no sign of the car that was supposed to be started by Maciej Markinovic and handed on to Lucas Kreski, or vice versa. Thought it would have been Kreski starting, but it looks like an NS for them in race 2, unless they're up at pit exit. Can't see them. So, are we down to 12 runners? But fear not, the numbers might be slim at the moment, and I'm promised by the organisers they should be rising to, I think, 18 for the next round and hopefully beyond 20 through the course of the season. GT4 has been the growth formula in international racing in the last 2 or 3 years, as shown by 44 cars entering the first European round. So, KTM on the inside the front row, Marilyn Niederhausen, and then alongside the Sin with Vlashkov, Scholl and Thomas Pekar, so Porsche and Mercedes on the second row. Maciej Drescher in the Polish race, very quick indeed in KTM crossbow. He'll start 5th. 6th, Romy Dalla Antonia in the remaining Maserati. Sergei Pavlovec, local racer, he's in another KTM. He'll be starting just behind there, sharing with Volgarten that row. So down to about Wiebahn and Severs. And back row, Hamza Awega. There it is, the Racing 1 Audi, you can see it. All on its own on the back row. This was the car that scooped victory in the final few laps yesterday. It was all changing, and we had a red flag come out because there were just too many incidents with about 2 laps to go, including a Vega being rammed up the back in avoidance of someone else's accident. But with the red flag and count back, he took victory. He's starting last today. Very short on race experience, but seems to have plenty of natural speed and learning his craft very fast indeed. But even if he comes through to the front, he won't be taking home any points. They're apportioned only to those registered in the championship. So there is Hamza Awega. So the Most Autodrome, it might still be April, right, the last weekend in April, but it's beautiful, beautiful conditions. It's 23, maybe 24 degrees air temperature now. It's been like this for 3 days. solid blue skies. Had a little bit of cloud coming in through yesterday afternoon's race that was run at the same time. But conditions certainly very warm indeed. So the Sin R1 on the right-hand side of your screen. Distinctive shape, owned by the Sofia Car Motorsport team from Bulgaria. From Bulgarian capital, but it's the car that was super quick in the hand of Patrick Niederhauser, the blue, pink and black KTM crossbow, running with roofs in recent years, that will be starting from pole position. It's a rolling start, want everyone to be nice and close together. So the 12 cars really close together, still seen no sign of the number 7 WP Racing Team Maserati. They ran right at the front end yesterday, started from pole position. We'll have to ignore that for now. Let's look, red lights on the gantry. When they go out, the drivers can floor the throttle and accelerate down the slope to turn 1. Need to flick that round, and looks so they've gone. We haven't seen the red lights turn to green, but they certainly have, because the field's accelerating hard. Good start by Marilyn Niederhauser, who was so cock-a-hoot with victory yesterday. Down to the first corner she goes. A very tight first corner here at the Most Autodrome. In behind, Freddie Kramer tucking in nicely in his Porsche. And Hamza Awega incredibly slowly away at the back. And looks like a lack of gears there for Sego Pavlovec. He's found one now, but he's dropped from mid-grid back to the tail. Didn't see what the problem was with Hamza Awega, but yesterday's race winner, who wasn't eligible for points, he's way out back as the cars go into turn 7. Only now can you see the Racing 1 Audi. So he's given himself a handicap for whatever reason, but in the front of the race, it's Marilyn Niederhauser in grid formation. Great start, though, for the Maserati. Giuseppe Fascicolo started 6th on the grid, he's up to 3rd, so it worked really well for the Maserati there. Sorry, it's not Fascicolo, it's his teammate. So they'd put the wrong driver up there, they'd swapped some of them around. So it's Romy Dall'Antonio. That would explain things. So really good start, and making progress past Freddie Fast was the all-white number 25 KTM crossbow. But what a start from pole position. I really fancied a challenge from the Sin R1, but it's not close enough. It's about 1.5 seconds down on the race leader. Dall'Antonio holding that position very well indeed, up to 3rd place, being pushed by the Felbermeyer 24 KTM crossbow, starting to make decent progress, and that started in 5th place, is running in 5th place. Looking very tightly. Gap between 1st and 2nd, 1.7 seconds at the end of the opening lap. So Patrick Niederhauser really stringing it together. Sorry, they put yesterday's finishers in. So it's Patrick Niederhauser, and from Ivan Vlashkov, who's driving solo. Then we have Romy Dall'Antonio and car number 41 with Nicholas Scholl, Austrian racer, on board, is holding down 4th place. So have a look at the replay. This is number 25 making its way up the inside and past the Lechner Motorsport Mercedes. Still trying to work out what exactly happened to Hamza Awega on the opening lap, because he was way last by the time the cars were leaving turn 2. He was still coming down the start-finish straight, so clearly something untoward occurred. And car number 20 is under investigation for a possible grid formation infringement, and that's Thomas Pekar, who's sharing the Beta Group Mercedes with Franjo Kovac, the team owner. Hasn't benefited him too much, because it's down in 7th place, having started 4th. So car 24 pressing on very well at this stage in the race. Matthias Bretter, at certain points yesterday, he was the fastest driver, but his teammate David Klaas short on experience, and when he handed over to Matthias, the pole was down in about 10th place out of, I think, the 12 cars that were still running at that point. And he started trading fastest laps with Patrick Niederhauser. Patrick's car, though, finished by Marilyn Niederhauser, really just was one of the class cars in the field. Beautiful conditions, but it's looking quite easy at the moment. It's out to 3.5 seconds, the gap between 1st and 2nd after 2 laps. So Patrick Niederhauser, once we clarify, it wasn't Marilyn starting the race, it wasn't his girlfriend, it's Patrick. No wonder that car's not only out front, but pulling clear. Set the fastest lap of the race so far, 3.5 seconds clear after 2 racing laps. That's the sort of performance advantage you'd almost expect from him. The others will be picking up their pace, but Patrick on the button from the outset. Look at this replay. Attempted overtaking manoeuvre, but later on the brakes, but better on the brakes. The KTM Crossbow, the Felbermayr car with Matthias Dresser, but he's on the wrong line for turn 2. So Nicholas Scholl, sorry, car number 18, not Nicholas Scholl, that's Moritz Österreich doing everything right for Pro Sport Performance Team. Showing good experience there to keep Matthias on the outside. These KTM Crossbows have been such a staple of GT4 racing, but GT4 racing is changing before our eyes. More and more manufacturers coming on board. Last year we said Mercedes AMG launched and the Audi R8 LMS, and it's very much a playing field all the manufacturers want to be involved with. But what they don't want is to be beaten by lesser known manufacturers like KTM with its Crossbow, Sin with its one and only R1. So they've got to up their game because those are being driven beautifully at the front of the field. Patrick Niederhauser, 3.5 seconds clear from Ivan Vlaškov. So the Czech racer in the Czech car doing a very good performance. He's now nearly 2 seconds clear of the Maserati of Romy Dall'Antonio. But as you can see, the Maserati's got company tucked in behind. In number 41, we've got Nicholas Scholl, the Austrian, right in behind Matthias Dresser. In fact, he's one car further back because, of course, he fell down behind Österreich on that lap. We saw Österreich coming past him on the start-finish straight. And again, Österreich looking very strong in the number 18. Seems to have a very good exit and great punch down the start-finish straight. So that's white and orange for performance. Porsche Cayman looking very good at this point in the race. Moritz Österreich starring at this point. He's dropped the Felbermayr. Matthias Dresser. Crossbow, there it is, the 2 shades of blue, the light over the dark, and then through the twisty bits, that's where you really see the Crossbow come into its own. So down through turns 5, 8, 7, 6, 7, 8 and 9, now through turn 10, starting to accelerate back from the furthest point on the circuit. This is the point where the track really starts to open out again. This will be the point at which the Porsche Caymans and the Maserati have an advantage over the KTM Crossbow, but when it gets twisty, the Crossbow is the car to have. So Moritz Österreich about to pick off another position, diving up the inside. Nicholas Scholl makes it look very easy indeed. So number 18 gains another position. Came home third yesterday, shared with Luca Volgarden. And looks set for another good run here today. Fastest lap of the race so far, Patrick Niederhauser, 5.569 seconds clear from Ivan Vlaškov, running a race of their own. That's a replay just showing how Matthias Dresser decided he might want to get in on the action at the same time. So just as Nicholas Scholl was adjusting to life, having been past Matthias Dresser, just grabbed the moment with both hands. So great move there from the pole in the Felbermayr Crossbow, but leading the race and doing so seemingly effortlessly. Fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 42.060 seconds for our race leader, Patrick Niederhauser. Yesterday's fastest lap was set by Matthias Dresser, 1:41.996. So working down towards that, another 1/10 of a second to be found. And he'll do it. Car 41 fighting back against Matthias Dresser, and you'll see the sister car coming through behind them. Number 43, Rob Severs, who was assaulted with 1.5 laps to go yesterday, lost a lot of liquid. A few cars fell off on that. He drove a little bit around the circuit, but the second of those two, black, blue and green Porsche Caymans closing in, while in front Nicholas Scholler, in the better place of the two, has to fight super hard with Matthias Dresser. Porsche Cayman just that little bit sleeker. Oh, gosh, he's making short order of the competition. No longer is the Maserati third in the hands of Romy Dall'Antonio because Moritz Österreich, second generation, son of Marcus Österreich, who probably came and raced trucks here. Had he been a Mercedes touring car driver, he started racing Mercedes trucks, and truck racing has been hugely popular over the past couple of decades here when the European Championship comes to visit. It's part of the Czech Republic. Closing up in midfield, but the gap between first and second is not closing up, going quite the opposite direction because Ivan Vlaškov 8 and a bit seconds down now. All the action really being supplied by Matthias Dresser in number 24 there. And the driver who's flying absolutely everywhere, in fact, set the fastest opening sector of anyone on this lap is Moritz Österreich. Half a second down. Now he's got past Dall'Antonio. I'm trying to see, he was second fastest on that lap, slower only than Patrick Niederhauser. But I feel the driver of the number 24 KTM Crossbow, Matthias Dresser, if he could get clear of traffic, he could start putting in some really quick tyres, but he's been battling very hard for the past 4 or 5 laps. At this rate, Patrick Niederhauser is probably going to start lapping the tail enders by the time they get around to the end of the pit stop window. I would suggest he will be coming in as late as he can. He'll run as close to 35 minutes of this 1-hour race as he can before heading over to Marilyn. Even Vlachkov sitting in second place. But look, the challenge has come up quickly. 2.3 seconds down on the start-finish line. But Moritz Österreich is hauling him in quickly, dropping Romy Dall'Antonio. Dall'Antonio is going to have to put his focus behind it because Matthias Drescher is now free of the battle into 5th place and chasing him hard. '25 is starting to pick up the pace. That's Ilmari Korpivara, Finnish racer in the KTM Crossbow at the back of the group. He's working very hard to try and pass Thomas Pekka in the Beza Group Mercedes. There it is, and the Beza Group car very close indeed to Rob Severs. Car number 23, your team manager to race control immediately, and that's Sergei Pavlovek, who's racing on his own in the 23 Reiter Engineering Crossbow. Can't tell you what his infringement is. What I can tell you, at the back of the race is Hamza Ovega, yesterday's winner, is starting to get a bit of a move on at last. He's 11th out of the 12 runners. We lost the number 7 WP Racing Team Maserati before the start of the race. That took us down to 12. Pavlovich is running 12th, but he's been in the pits twice already with problems, and I don't know if he's had a pit infringement. Drawing one of those. Insult to injury. So very much the hunter in the early stage of the race is number 18, Moritz Österreich. Finished 3rd yesterday, running 3rd today, but 3rd will not be good enough for him because quite clearly he wants to get into 2nd place. 2nd place occupied by Ivan Vlachkov in the red, white and green R1, running the national colours of Bulgaria. And in fact, I think he's actually now starting to delay Moritz Österreich. Moritz has got up onto his tail. Roman Dall'Antonio, without being pushed now by Österreich, is settling down all over again, but he's got Matthias Dresser for company. I knew he would within a few laps. And this is going to be the move at turn 14 as it turns to turn 15 under the bridge. Done very tidily. So up into 2nd place, Moritz Österreich really going very well indeed for the Pro Sport Performance team. And Matthias Dresser wanting to try and pull off a similar manoeuvre. Hasn't managed at the same place though. So through turn 15, 16, there they are coming out of 17. And just look at the extra momentum up over the crest out of the kink at 14, and by the time they got to 15, 2nd place had changed hands. Even Vlachkov ceded the position because quite clearly Moritz Österreich had positioned his car in the correct line there to take the inside line, hit the apex going into 15, and you don't want to try and brave it out around the outside. We'll end up on the grass and possibly in the gravel at that corner. So Vlachkov realised that and settles down into life in 3rd place, but not for a great deal longer perhaps, because he's certainly going to get company at this rate with Romy Dall'Antonio picking up the pace now. Romy in that 77 Maserati. Someone's kicked up a bit of the dust down there. It happens. Ampas in this little battle with Franjo Kovac in the middle of the... Sorry, Thomas Pekka in the middle of the battle. Rob Severs in front in 7th place in the 43 Porsche Cayman, and car number 25 at the back, the Hollinger Reiter KTM with Benjamin Zartis waiting to take over, but Ilmari Korpivara getting more of a race than he had yesterday. So it shows the mix of car: Porsche Cayman, Mercedes AMG, and then the KTM Crossbow. First to second. I know we've just got a new car into 2nd place with Moritz Österreich, but it's 15.9 seconds. And Patrick Niederhauser in that lead KTM Crossbow, lapping 2 seconds quicker than the best of the rest. 2 seconds every lap. I was sort of semi-joking about Patrick doing well enough to start lapping the cars at the tail end of the field, but at the moment the spread from down to Hamza Owega is... Just trying to work it out. They've just changed the screen, so I can't tell you, but it must be about 45 seconds. Hamza's pace, he's doing 1 minute 45s. Well, he's just not found the pace of yesterday. Maybe he's finding life a little harder. Now we do have a change of position because 25 demotes Thomas Pekar, so place gained there by Ilmari Korpivara. And Ilmari's now going to set after the Dutch racer Rob Severs, who was so rudely assaulted at the end of yesterday's race and picked up the damage that gave the leak that was all around the circuit. So there's a replay. Korpivara. Well, in fact, they ended up just getting rather too close to Rob Severs. So Pekar had to come off the power, off the throttle, and because he couldn't go because the Cayman was right in front of him, and very easy indeed for Korpivara to go through on the inside there. Our race leader, our dominant, our supreme race leader, Patrick Niederhauser, just using the right amount of curb, getting his car balanced. Gap, if I wanted to see what it was, back to Hamza Awega. In fact, Freddie Fast is now last. 34.5 seconds down on our race leader, so I was 10 seconds too generous in my estimation, but at the moment, Freddie Fast lapping 1 minute 46.0. Last time around 1 minute 42.2 for Niederhauser. That explains the gain, and it's going out all the time. Moritz Österreich has built a half-second lead over Vlaškov, so Vlaškov has been passed, but he hasn't been beaten, and Romy Dall'Antonia is just 1.4 seconds down on Vlaškov's sin, so it's really pretty close, apart from the battle between first and second, because Patrick Niederhauser is putting on an absolute masterclass in the lead of the race. Just under 10 minutes, the pit lane will be open for the first drivers who fancy coming in to make their mandatory pit stop. They have to be at a standstill for a minimum amount of time. You'd be amazed how often teams decide to just go a little bit too soon, so they save a second but then get penalised about 30, so it really isn't one that bears consideration. Team manager of car 20 to race control immediately, and that's the Beza Group Mercedes team. Thomas Pekar at the wheel at the moment, and waiting to hand over at some point to team chief Franjo Kovac, but race director would like to see the team manager immediately. Looking at the sequence from turn 6, 7, 8 and 9, you get to the hairpin at 10. Just the Porsche just going through now. The Sin not so far behind. And the Maserati Dall'Antonia is still resisting Matthias Dresser, all lapping into 1 minute 44s. In fact, Österreich 1 minute 43.8, but 1 minute 42.8 for our race leader. No wonder Patrick Niederhauser continues to pull clear. .25 looking for more action. Ilmari Korpivara very close to Rob Severs, tries the outside line. It may yet work at turn 15, but it's diminishing returns. You'll be over the curb, but he's kept his foot in. No, the Finn had to back off. No, he's kept through 16, but 17 goes the other way. He's around the outside. He's gained that position. That was super brave. He's on the grass. Oh, and suddenly the Beza Group Mercedes decided, as we've seen earlier in the race, when someone gets past turn 15, sometimes they lose a bit of momentum. Rob Severs did, and I'm afraid lost two positions in 2 corners. Korpivara did it very well indeed. So Korpivara kept his foot in at 15. Severs had to cut him a little bit of slack at turn 16 as the KTM Crossbow came back onto the circuit, but then the Beza Group Mercedes just took a tighter exit, and suddenly, for the Dutch racer, 2 drivers went past him in one fell swoop, or hardly any space at all. In fact, not quite enough space for the Beza Group Mercedes as they went through the kink at turn 18. This is another look at the replay from the back. Korpivara did not back off when he got the dirt on his tyres. But at this point, it really didn't seem the Mercedes was having enough momentum, but did it very easily. We had a change for second place, so Moritz Österreich sorry, not change for second place. What we have is the battle for fourth place. I beg your pardon, Matthias Dresser got past Romy Dall'Antonia, being very close for a long time, and I really felt that had he got past Dall'Antonia sooner, he'd be now on the tail of that battle for second place. Österreich still holding second place, the number 18 Porsche Cayman, and even Vlaškov third, having run second in the early stages of the race. There is our second place Porsche Cayman. Moritz Österreich driving a fantastic stint. Patrick Niederhauser has been the one making the pace, but the one making the moves has been Moritz Österreich. Young German doing a very, very good job indeed. Now Matthias Dresser, the 2 colours of blue on his KTM Crossbow, I fancy will start closing in on the pair ahead. Just looking at time splits. In fact, yes, Dresser's just set his fastest middle sector of the lap of the race. So now he's free to close in on this pair, and you can almost see it happening as he swings through turn 20 into 21. There's the Sin in third place. Not so long ago he was in second, and maybe not so far into the future he might be down in third place. Romy Dall'Antonio dropping away a little in the background in the number 77 Viorba course Maserati, but had a really good start to the race. Don't forget he started in about 7th and was 3rd on the opening lap. Moritz Österreich clumping the curbs on the inside. Only now is Hamza Vega starting to get on the pace. He's now closing that number 16 Racing One Audi towards the tail of Rob Severs. We saw Severs lose a couple of places a couple of laps ago, the number 43 Porsche Cayman. And he's the one who's slightly struggling for pace at this moment. That's the 41 Porsche Cayman we've seen in our shot. And there is the 43 Porsche Cayman, and there indeed is the Racing One Audi of Hamza Vega, yesterday's winner, but didn't take any points home because he is a guest runner, not registered for points in the first ever GT4 Central European Cup. This car most certainly is this driving combination. Patrick Niederhauser 20.9 seconds clear last time around, lapping lap after lap in the 1 minute 42s. The best of the rest only scrape into the 1 minute 43s. No wonder his advantage continues to grow. Just to reiterate, we have a pit stop window. It opens when we get 35.00 at the top of the screen, so just over 4 minutes, but I would suggest that Patrick will stay out right towards the end, and as long as he comes in before it says 24.59 at the top of the screen, he'll be fine. There's a 10-minute period in which the pit window is open. Now the Maserati is starting to fall away in 5th place. Matthias Dresser has passed him in that 24 KTM crossbow and is now within half a second of even Vlashkov. Vlashkov a bit better down the start-finish straight, but this first third of the lap is where the KTM is so strong. When they get down to the sweeping S's from turns 5 through to 9, just before they get to the hairpin, the crossbow is absolutely fantastic. These corners right here just seems to have the balance and the way it can turn in where the driver wants it to. Very neat and tidy over the curbs. Romy Dall'Antonio, having been dropped and fallen nearly 3 seconds back, has just set his fastest lap of the race. So maybe not having to play with the others has enabled him to get some clear air and space to visualise where he wants to be in the Viorba course Maserati. And for several laps since passing the Sin, it doesn't seem that Moritz Österreich has been able to pull away, but now the Sin driver Vlashkov has got to look in his mirrors, and in fact he won't have to look in his mirrors for very long because he'll have to look in front of him, because Matthias Dresser caught him very easily and got past just as easily. So suddenly Vlashkov has gone from 2nd down to 4th in about 3 laps. He will be coming in, but of course he won't be making a driver change. So he'll be able to go back out, and whereas if you hand over to a teammate, they have to assess how the tyres are. He'll remember how the tyres are because he's been driving. But yet again, up the rise out of 13, probably not so lurid over the curbs at the bottom of the hill. Maximum power up the hill. It's all about the traction at the foot out of 13. And then just with the agility of the KTM crossbow, that move has been made to stick. Now, at the back of the field, yesterday's race winner, the guest driver Hamza Vega, is Racing One Audi. He has been lapping fairly decently the last 2 laps. If he can get past Rob Severs, he's certainly on paper much quicker. So it's going to be a bit of a slow burn for Hamza Vega. Yesterday was his race of races. Nearly got taken away with the shunt, no fault of his, avoiding someone else spinning in front of him at the end of the race. But on countback, he was the winner. Well, he's diving for the inside from rather a long way back, and Severs isn't going to leave the door that wide open. Keeping a watch on the gap between 1st and 2nd, between Patrick Niederhauser and Moritz Österreich. 23.1 seconds now. And drive-through penalty, oh dear, has gone to car number 20. That's Thomas Pekar, Czech driver, for tyre heating after turn 17. On the formation lap, there's a certain point past which you cannot veer from side to side to get some heat into your tyres before the start. So number 20, Pekar, is in 8th place, about 5 seconds down on the number 25 KTM crossbow, will be much further back once it's served the drive-through penalty. So Hamza Awega trying to unseat Severs. Rob Severs fairly wily here, keeping his car just where he wants it to be. So Hamza Awega, who is still short on race experience, hasn't got many years on the clock. I think this is his first full season. Is having to learn his craft and trying to get around a driver who's been racing in GT4 since 2013. Was second in the amateur level of the European Championship back in 2014 for Las Maras Racing, and just loves his GT4 racing. And a first visit for this championship here, first visit for a majority of the drivers. Obviously with 3 Czech drivers, they know the Most Autodrome, but for many people it's been a pleasant surprise. But it's a circuit you have to work at. Fantastic fun to drive, but very, very difficult to make a passing manoeuvre. But it must be said, the best of the GT4 runners seem to do it remarkably well. So the pit window isn't open yet. Well, it will be in 3 seconds, but this is a drive-through penalty for tyre heating after a final point on the formation lap. So that might well come in next time around to hand over to Franjo Kovac, the team chief. But for now, Thomas Pekar, yes, the pit window, of course, is now open. Just continues back out onto the circuit. Our race leader by 24.3 seconds last time around. Patrick Niederhauser, look for the best of the rest. Well, you have to wait to see the best of the rest, and it should be Moritz Österreich at some point coming through turn 15. That is an example of there's the gap. But look how Matthias Drescher in third place has got that KTM crossbow. He passed the Sin one a couple of laps ago and has got right onto the tail. Well, why not be side by side with Moritz Österreich? So what do you do if you're Moritz Österreich? You can pit now if you want. Are you being put off by being pressed so hard by Dresser? Dresser will stay out, I'm sure, for the next 9 minutes, or 8.5 minutes. But look how he's just hauled him down, over 0.6 of a second on the last lap alone. No Moritz Österreich going around for another lap. So the Sin R1 with Ivan Vlashkov may actually gain through all of this if this gets a little too close down at turn 1. So the Sin tucked in behind, probably actually lapped slightly faster on that lap. Let's have a little look. Yes, he did. He took 0.7 of a second out of his fighting pair. But just look how particularly that number 18 Porsche Cayman is so sleek down the start-finish straight, while the lumpy, bumpy shaping of the KTM crossbow so brilliant over the curbs and beyond. But in a straight line, it really, really suffers. And you can see the Sin has closed right onto the tail of Matthias Dresser now. So this time, well, about 4 corners further around the previous lap, where Dresser made a charge and so nearly got past the number 18 Porsche Cayman, but its lack of straight line speed has dropped it away all over again. So out of turn 10 over the curbs at the little kink at 11. So the Viorba course, Maserati brought in by Romy Dall'Antonio. His race is run, and teammate Giuseppe Fascicola will take over that 77 Maserati. Background, you can see the helmet being taken off by Romy Dall'Antonio. Patrick Niederhauser will be pitting as late as he can in this pit window. He's got until it says 25 minutes at the top of the screen. He was 26.3 seconds clear last time around. He sets off onto lap number 17. Yet another lap in the 1 minute 42s. He is metronomic. Half a second down on his quickest. In fact, 0.6 of a second down on his quickest. But it's just one after another after another. Fantastic drive by Patrick Niederhauser. Just makes it look all so easy. I've commented on the straight line speed of the number 18 Porsche Cayman. Clearly they've set it up for speed down the straights, because that holds the fastest sector time, not Niederhauser, for the first of the 3 sectors of the lap. So a much big section of that is that run down to the first corner. So Giuseppe Fascicola settling into the start of his stint will take it through to the end of the race. And he's come out just ahead of that second place battle, but the Sin R1 with Vlashkov is in, because it would be in the back of that grouping, so he's gone for a fairly early pit stop, not handing over to anyone else. We'll just have to stay on board the Sin, but it was a tactic. He was close to the tail of this 24 KTM crossbow, and I think it's probably a wise decision. Now, is Moritz Österreich going to be delayed? There is the Sin in the pit lane. Is that Maserati going to delay Moritz Österreich and give a possibility for Matthias Dresser to make a move for what will be second place? Watching Vlashkov stay on board his Sin. This is an opportunity to come in and practice your new swear words on your team chief. like the Grand Prix du Rock, that fantastic Peter Ustinov recording of long ago. But Patrick Niederhauser, as predicted, continues on his way. 27.7 seconds clear last time. I said he was consistent. His lap time on that lap was just 0.02 of a second slower than the previous one. That is truly metronomic. I also wondered if Giuseppe Fascicolo, having just come out of the pit stop in the 77 Scuderia Viorba course, Maserati would be delaying this battle, but in fact he's only delayed one of this duo, so Macias Dresser has lost out enormously. Probably won't have the grunt to match the Maserati down the start-finish straight, and all along, having worked so hard to get onto the tail of Moritz Österreich, almost sticking his nose in front at turn 15 a few laps ago, has lost out considerably. So Macias Dresser is going to be another one of the drivers who stays out as long as he can, but these are going to be frustrating laps, and he did it very well to get the undercut there on the Maserati. So Fascicolo unable to keep him behind. Fighting hard to try and make a comeback, but don't forget he is a lap in arrears because he's made his pit stop. There's just about enough space to stay on the circuit and not come back and clout the side of the KTM Crossbow, but Dresser, the pole, knew exactly what he was planning to do. Turn in late and have the underside. Thank you very much indeed. While the first four runners, Patrick Niederhauser, Moritz Österreich, Macias Dresser and Nicolas Scholl has been promoted back up in the 41 Allied Racing Porsche Cayman, have not made their pit stops. Most of those behind have. So yet another lap. I cannot believe it. That lap split his two previous ones. 1 minute 42.680, 1 minute 42.682, and now right in the middle, 1 minute 42.681. Extraordinarily accurate driving from Patrick Niederhauser. Got away from pole position at the start of the race and has looked supreme. Anyone who can build an advantage of, and I have to wait for it to find out how long it's going to be close to 30 seconds over Moritz Österreich. Unless Österreich dives into the pits this time, it's 30.8 seconds. And then it's 3/4 of a second between second and third. The Sin, having made the pit stop, back out in the race in 9th position, but that will probably go back to about 4th after the front runners have made their stops. So for the hot shoes at the front of the field, Patrick Niederhauser, Moritz Österreich and Macias Dresser, they've got to be thinking, don't muck it up, guys. You've probably got one more lap, and then it's best to make your pit stop. Miss the pit window, and you really do go from hero to zero. Macias Dresser, far from finish, right on the tail of Moritz Österreich. And now they're coming up on Benjamin Mazatis, who's taken over the number 25 Hollinger Reiter KTM Crossbow from Ilmari Korpivara, and should be relatively quick, but not as quick as this duo, so he could get in their way, but they may get to his tail, but then realise they've got to make a pit stop. Hopefully they're not so embroiled in their battle. A little look down the inside at turn 15 from Drescher, no good there. Moritz Österreich showing he can block as well as he can drive, but he can't block the inside line. I reckon he's probably coming to the pits this lap, because Drescher has just moved up into second place through the kink at turn 18 and 19. There's a kink of 19, and it looks like is Dresser doing one more lap or diving for the pits? What's the body language on these particular cars? Our race leader has come in. Patrick Niederhauser has turned into the pits. So does Dresser. And at the last second, Moritz Österreich does just enough, because you know what? It would have been super close if he hadn't. If he'd gone round, he might, if he kept his lap speed, manage to get in with about a second to spare. So we've got 1 minute 54 on the clock. Now he'd have got in with about 5 seconds to spare, but that's cutting it very, very fine indeed. But he does come in behind the KTM Crossbow. Number 24 with Dresser up into second place, but into the pit lane immediately. But you can see in the background of that shot, you see Moritz Österreich, not this shot, the previous shot, was almost inveigled into doing one further lap. So Patrick Niederhauser out, and so great was their advantage. What's happened? Is this on the way into the pits? That was on the way into the pits. A lot of time was lost there by Patrick Niederhauser. He built that lead of 31 seconds. We'll have to have a look and see what happened there, because suddenly stationary, still stationary, but should be back into the race by now. And now he is. Had to wait the minimum time. Don't go too soon. Okay, so here goes Marilyn Niederhauser, but the battle has suddenly closed up enormously, one would suggest, after whatever went on, with Niederhauser just seeming to come to a halt before pit entry. Well, it'll be interesting to see if there's anything wrong with the car as Marilyn takes it out. Thumb up, thumb up, thumb up. This is for car 24. David Clark, Czech racer, taking it over from the pole, Matthias Dresser, who got that up to second place just before the pit stops. I'm not sure what the difference is between the thumb up and the thumb up. It seemed the same signal he's given when he's supposed to be at a standstill. Looking over the roof of the 23 Pavlovich car that's been in the pits for a considerable amount of time. Sergei Pavlovich, another of the Czech racers. But second and third came in this order. Number 24, just 3 corners before the pit stop, moved up into second place, but comes out the same distance apart from number 18. Number 18 now driven by Luca Volgarten, another of the young Germans in this field, and the Pro Sport Performance Porsche. Pit window is closed, as you can see, 10 seconds ago. I'm going to be really intrigued to see what the difference is. Just remember, it was about 31 seconds. I think it was 30.8 seconds the lap before Patrick Niederhauser came into the pit lane. I want to see a replay of why the car appeared to be at a standstill before it entered the pit lane. I think the gap is going to be right down. Let's wait until we get our next opportunity to see what the interval is, because now all the runners have made their pit stops. In the case, of course, of the number 20 Mercedes, now driven by Franjo Kovac, it had a drive-through penalty, so it's made 2 visits to the pits. So here's Marilyn Niederhauser out over the curbs, out of turn 21, accelerating down the start-finish straight. What's the gap going to be when the car in second comes through? It should be the number 24. That is number 24, but there's company. Second, third and fourth, very close indeed. Even Vlashkov in fourth place in the Sin. It is right on the tail of Luca Volgarten in the Pro Sport Performance Porsche Cayman, and tucked in behind there is the white KTM. Benjamin Mazatis was an early taker over. His pit stop was quite early when he took over from Ilmari Korpivara, and he's on the tail. So we've got 4 cars fighting for second place. Gap back to second, 32.3. So maybe I was just imagining things, but seeing that car coming to a halt. But again, the straight line speed of the 18 Porsche Cayman in particular is phenomenal down the straight, and there was absolutely nothing that David Clark could do about it. In fairness, David Clark not the match of Matthias Dresser behind the wheel, but learning his craft all the same, and just wasn't able to defend, whereas perhaps Matthias would have had a little bit of a fight to keep him back. But look at that speed differential. In fact, I wouldn't have thought Matthias could have done anything about that, but he would have waited for the twisty bits and then fought back as soon as he possibly could. So the Porsche Cayman still seemingly the master in a straight line, and the Sin not too shabby in that element of the competition either. So Benjamin Mazatis has got past the Sin, so even Vlashkov, even though he knows exactly how the car's handling, unless he forgot during his pit stop, because he's the best place of the drivers who are going solo in this race, he should have an advantage at this point in the race, while the other drivers are dialing themselves in, getting the feel of the car. But as you can see, through turn 10, he just ran a little bit wide, but more to the point, again showing the performance around the corners of the KTM crossbows. Benjamin Mazatis looked very easy, just looked so simple, diving up the inside, had all the grip he wanted, just lighter on its tyres, and moved up that position very respectably. And having dropped 24 crossbow, 25 Benjamin Mazatis goes past David Clare without a care in the world. Super easy for him. Don't forget though, Clare is still relatively experienced. Mazatis has raced KTM crossbows before. And as expected, down the start-finish straight, the battle for second place. Luca Volgarten able to open out 0.8 of a second over Mazatis. Again, looking good. Circuit looking good too. Wonderful spring sunshine here in the Czech Republic, up in the northwestern corner, about an hour and a half north of Prague. And actually only about 30 kilometres from the border with Germany in the Saxony region. So quite a lot of the German-based teams, really, this isn't that far from home. But the weather's been kind. Feels almost like early summer rather than mid-spring, but we'll take the weather. Beautiful blue skies. And a very scenic backdrop here at the Most Autodrome. And while this little group are fighting, they're lapping way off the pace that we saw set lap after lap after lap by Patrick Niederhauser. Marilyn, Patrick's girlfriend, has actually stretched the advantage, but she's lapping 1 minute 46.1 second laps, whereas Patrick was doing 1 minute 42.6 lap after lap after lap. So she's 3.5 seconds down, but she's not being troubled by those around her. That's the key. Able to dial herself in. Maserati's fallen off the back of the pack. Giuseppe Fascicolo down in 6th place. Then comes Freddie Kramer, and he's being pushed very hard now by Hamza Avega. Hamza still not showing the form he showed yesterday. Maserati's on a real charge. Don't forget the KTM always loses out to the Porsche down the straight, but he's closed right onto the tail of Luca Volgarten. Almost close enough to get a slipstream. You can see he's lost 2, possibly 3 car lengths. They go down towards the braking zone, but when they get down there, the lighter KTM Crossbow just much more wieldy. In fact, almost going out the inside, almost clattering into the door. Let's have a look at the door. Is it the number 18 Porsche? Has it got a mark on it? Not that I can see, but and that mark on the front wing, but it'd be on the wrong side of the KTM. That's been there for several days, but just look how it turns into the corner. I think there was a bit of contact there, but only fairly light. You can see the Porsche just changing angles somewhat. Oh, let's have a look from this angle. Into turn 1. Look at the Porsche. Does it suddenly move? Possibly not. That could have also been going onto the curbs. But what we saw there from Benjamin Mazatis was though other KTM drivers just have to accept in a straight line they can't do anything. He braked super late. Then put that there. It's just something in the mind of Luca Volgarten. I could try this again next time, you know. Behind them, David Clark holding on in the Felbermeyer Crossbow. And even Vlashkov seems to have gone off the boil a little bit in the second half of the race. He ran second in the early stages, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and now he's down. Sorry, he's down in 5th at the moment. 4 seconds clear of the Maserati of Giuseppe Fascicolo. That's 2nd, 3rd, 4th, this one. And then the Sin in 5th. And some way behind Giuseppe Fascicolo, another 5 or so seconds. Hamza Avega has just moved up past Freddie Kramer's 41 Porsche. So the 16 Audi, entered by Racing 1 crew, up into 7th place. Mazatis closer to the Porsche Cayman this time down the start-finish straight. But again, you get towards the end, another 2 car lengths are gained. And then they get to the braking. This is where the KTM Crossbow just is a better performer. And the sleeker Porsche, it can pick its line even better through turns 1 and 2, get the power down sooner. This enables it to close in and refresh its attack as they go through turn 4. He's lost a bit more ground to the sleeker Porsche, but as they get to the next few corners, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, these sweeping S's, almost like a chicane, that is where the KTM Crossbow closes right here. But the Crossbow behind, David Clark, is being pushed very hard through that sequence of corners by Ivan Vlashkov. In the background, you can see the Maserati starting to close in again, having dropped away in the hands of Giuseppe Fascicolo. He took about a second out of them last time around as they fight. Marilyn Niederhauser, though, lapping about the same pace as they are now. Low 1 minute 46s, but sitting on a lead of 32 seconds. That's plenty. 17 minutes remaining in this race, so she can almost squander 2 seconds a lap. But I see her laps for consistency. 1 minute 45.7 that time around. See what she can do next time. You'd have to say on current form they took yesterday's victory because Hamza Awega, first the finish flag, was a guest driver, but they could also be taking maximum points in their own right today because it's very hard to see Patrick Niederhauser, who started the race, and Marilyn Niederhauser coming unstuck, coming a cropper in this race. So great is their advantage. 32 seconds, just remember that. Well, certainly entertaining. Benjamin Mazatis will not take no for an answer. The Maserati just saw in shot there. Giuseppe Fascicolo in 6th place. There's Hamza Awega in 7th. Is he closing in? I fancy he is. Yes, it's taken half a second off Fascicolo. So he's well, no, more of a fight for second place. Luca Volgarten hangs on for now, kicks up the dirt a little bit on the exit of turn 2. A good run there. Momentum carried this time, much closer for Benjamin Mazatis. What can he do? What we saw early in the race, he's very good out of turn 10. We're looking at them sweeping down towards turn 10, but that white KTM crossbow in particular seems to be able to pick its line down at that point on the track. Even Vlashkov taking a run up the inside of Maser Stresser should manage to do that with his grunt. Past the start-finish line, he pulls off the move. Can he brake sufficiently, or will the KTM get into turn 1 first? No, the Sin does just what is required. Seen it before, and now we've seen it again. Benjamin Mazatis, that 25 KTM crossbow is a good passing place for crossbows. They like it coming up the hill out of 13 through 14 and can carry that momentum into turn 15. So suddenly a new identity of a driver in and a car moving up into second place. It's the 25 Hollinger Reiter KTM crossbow, started by Finnish racer Ilmari Korpivara, and now Benjamin Mazatis done an absolutely fantastic job to take it up into second place. Don't forget though, down the start-finish straight, we'll see the car now in third, the Pro Sport Performance Porsche, hauling it in all over again, and also the Sin's pretty handy in a straight line. That's running in fourth overall. And having demoted Matthias Dresser on that last lap, we can see that suddenly the Maserati is picking up its heels, and it has to, because Fasicholo now can see Hamza Ovega closing in on him. Hamza just set his fastest lap of the race. He's now only 2.7 seconds down. There he is, lights are flashing on his Racing One Audi. So order's been changing quite a lot in recent laps, and David Clark in the two shades of blue KTM crossbow was fighting over second position. Now he's down in fifth, and I don't think for a great deal longer. Matthias Dresser did a fantastic job in the opening stage of the race. No insults meant, but David Clark not got that level of experience. Perfect track conditions to gain some experience, but it can take races, months, years even. And here's how close the Maserati is now, getting that tail swinging out. Fasicholo having to do a massive amount of adjustment and readjustment to not slide off into the gravel at turn 2. Got very close to the tail of David Clark. Clark is still there. Then Fasicholo, and then behind Hamza Ovega. But out front, making it look easy. Now picking up a pace a tiny bit down now into the 1 minute 45s, 1 minute 45.9. Marilyn Niederhauser, 13 minutes left on the clock, sitting on an advantage. I can't tell you what it is. I can now, just under 30 seconds, 29.8 seconds. In fact, Mazatis took a second out of her, but he's going to have to take way more than that, and I don't think he's going to find that in the bank. I mean, at this rate, he could take about 6 seconds out of that lead, but that still leaves about 24 seconds spare for Marilyn Niederhauser to play with. But it's been a great run from the Hollinger KTM crew. Ilmari Korpivara started, Benjamin Mazatis building on that, and certainly his racing form belies his strong pedigree. There, his car continues to make good its escape. Battle for second place. Luca Volgarten in the Porsche Cayman from Pro Sport Performance. The Sin almost revitalised its later stages in the race, now starting to pick up the pace in at fourth. And behind David Clark, falling away a little bit because he's then suddenly got Fasicholo for company in the battle for fifth place, and Hamza Ovega closing in as well. Yes, I fancy if Luca Volgarten can continue to contain even Vlachkov in the Sin, we might have the two cars behind closing onto its tail all over again, because David Clark appears to be picking up his pace. Well, Vega got past last lap, got past the Maserati, and it's been a good couple of laps. He's suddenly gone past David Clark. Team manager of car 41 to the race director immediately. That is Allied Racing, and the driver at the wheel of 41 at the moment is Freddie Kramer. Freddie's running in 9th place. I can't tell you what his misdemeanor is. He's 2 seconds down on his teammate Jörg Wiebahn. 3.6 seconds ahead of the Lechner Motorsport Mercedes of Freddie Fast, the Austrian racer. Got no further information as to why anything untoward has been reported. Hamza Awega continues to close in. This is the battle for 3rd place. 18, Luca Volgarten. Even Vlachkov in the sin, but you can see in the background the red and grey Audi closing. Started 12th out of 12 cars. We lost the WP Racing Team Maserati before the start of the race, and then had a problem. We know not what it was at the rolling start, where he was last by a huge distance. The other cars were turning out of turn 2 when he was just coming into picture down the start-finish straight. But since then, he's wound it up and has been going faster and faster. So Hamza Vega up into 6th place on that last lap. Pushed Fascicolo back to 7th. And Fascicolo way out of picture. David Clark already way out of picture in the background. Next target, the Sin. Even Vlachkov at the wheel of that. The rate at which the Audi has closed, if there was a problem, it must have been intermittent and maybe cleared, because he's really starting to pick up his skirts and charge. In fact, he's the fastest driver on the circuit at the moment. Faster even than Mazatis. Mazatis doing his best to try and close the gap. And in fact took 1.25 seconds out of the race leader. But here is the race leader. And she's doing exactly what she needs to do. Under 10 minutes to the end of the race. The advantage 26.8 seconds. That's very tidy. Thank you very much. As is Marilyn's driving style. Lightly over the curbs there. That's wholly permissible. That's on the return leg. Up over the crest of the hill at 14. Under the shade of the bridge. It's great. We've had shade there all weekend. In what's been glorious weather here in the Most Autodrome. So, barring absolute disaster, Marilyn Niederhauser is going to come home with another huge smile on her face. Yesterday was a fabulous result for Marilyn and boyfriend Patrick. It's weird that, isn't it? One person called Niederhauser dating another. They're not married, they're not brother and sister, nor cousins, but just happen to have the same surname. And I'm told it's not a particularly common surname, so it's not like mine. Down the start-finish straight. You can see the dip there. Wonderful shot out of turn 21. But really, the driver on the move, that Sin is in danger now, because look how fast the Audi for Hamza Vega has not just closed onto its tail, but immediately started challenging. Lights being flashed by even Vlachkov, but there's no way Luca Volgarten's going to get out of the way unless he's just saying, hurry up, we're being caught. Well, I think both the drivers will be fully aware of that. Now, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Benjamin Mazatis holding down 2nd position. He's ahead of this group by about, I'd say, 5 seconds, 4.5 seconds. He's going down towards turn 1. So are they, but the Cayman again handy in a straight line. But look, just look at Hamza Awega down the inside. Plenty of braking left, and the Sin had nowhere to go. The problem for car number 41. One of the 2 Allied Racing Porsche Caymans, the one with Nicholas Scholl and Freddie Kramer on board, was a pit lane infringement investigation after the race. So the race officials want to just concentrate on the end of the race in race control. But Hamza Awega coming from about 3 car lengths back, no problem at all. Fantastic on the brakes, car turning exactly how the German driver wanted it to. And this should be car number 41, with Freddie Fast going past in the Lechner Motorsport Mercedes. So the Austrian in the Austrian-entered car. Yep, got it all right. And for Freddie Kramer, it was almost a touch coming out of the final corner there. See the amount of tyre debris on the circuit, even with a fairly slim grid of cars. But over the course of the weekend, with all the other championships out on this circuit, a lot of dust gets kicked up, a lot of dirt gets kicked up. Jörg Wiebahn, so much experience, but he's running down in 8th place. His car, his crew, just certainly not matching the pace of the young tyros in Luca Volgarten and Moritz Österreich, who are driving the number 18 Porsche Cayman from a rival team, admittedly, but that's running in 3rd. So how good, we saw last time around just how good the Audi was in a straight line. We've been extolling the virtues of the straight line speed of the Porsche Cayman, but this time he's not dropping the Audi as they go down the straight. It seems fairly equal between them, whereas in previous laps we've seen the Audi gobbling up any car ahead, but equally the Cayman has been dropping anybody who got close enough to challenge him. Slight mistake running wide there by Luca Volgarten. Didn't seem to be under particular pressure, got it wrong at turn 2, and I think that position has just been lost to Hamza Awega. He's kept his foot in, but no, Hamza's on the right position for when the track jinxed left at turn 5. Volgarten, you might say, is almost too young to realise that. Eventually he's had to accept, but that was just a slip up at turn 2. Not a difficult corner, but at that stage I think Volgarten was thinking further up the road what might happen down at these sweepers, and just a momentary, what seemed like a loss of attention. He just ran wide and couldn't put the power down until the car had come back off the curbing. And that gave the opportunity for Awega. It'll be interesting to hear what he says after the race. Sweeping past the Beza Group Mercedes, which very kindly pulls over towards the edge. So Awega up into third place. First to second, just under 25 seconds. Marilyn Niederhausen ahead of fellow KTM racer Benjamin Mazatis. And now we've got the Audi up into third place on the road. Hamza Awega, 12th and a distant 12th at the end of the opening lap. He's worked hard for this one. Driving solo is hard enough on its own, but to come back from such a deficit, he wasn't just 12th, he was a distant 12th, having been so slow down the hill at the rolling start. Awega's made that look very easy indeed. What was his lap time? Not enormously fast, still faster than everybody bar Mazatis on that lap, but it was the overtaking that really counted for Awega. The Beza Group car that's running behind the 24 KTM, don't forget, has had a drive-through penalty, so that's a further lap down. Car 41, they've been told they will be getting 30 seconds added to their race time after the race, but as they're running down pretty much at the tail of the field, it's not going to lose them a lot of points. So for Freddie Kramer and Nicholas Scholl, disappointment, but I'm sure it can be contained. It hasn't cost them a top result. Into the final 3 minutes of this 1 hour race. This is worth pointing out, it's the opening round of the first ever GT4 Central European Cup. Not so long ago we had just the European Championship, then we had a Southern Championship, which was largely a French series, and it continues to grow. Pack grids in the European Championship, 44 cars for the opening round at Zolder a handful of weeks ago. Big entry for the French series and other series popping up around Europe, organised by SRO. And this is a toe in the water at this part of the world, but we have more races in store and more entries will be coming out to play. Of that you can be sure. And certainly, despite a slim number of cars in this race today and yesterday, provided overtaking aplenty, and certainly this hour has flown by. Almost come to an end, 2.5 minutes remaining. Marilyn Niederhausen, yes, the lead's come down from 32 seconds. She's lost 10 seconds, but she doesn't need to press on because she's still sitting on an advantage, 22 seconds over Benjamin Mazatis. So it's going to be a KTM 1-2, and it looks like the Audi is now safe in third place. There's the Hollinger Reiter entry in second place. Benjamin Mazatis took it over from Finn Ilmari Korpivara, and there's quite a gap. It was nearly 5 seconds on the start-finish line back to Hamza Awega. Hamza could close that, but it won't have enough time to do so. He'd be taking off tenths of a second here or there, maybe even half a second, but the clock has not been his friend. Be interesting to hear what he says. What was his problem on the rolling start? Why did he lose about 20 seconds just by the time he got to the first corner? Those 20 seconds could have been very useful indeed, bearing in mind he's only 27 seconds down on race leader. Still, 2 wins in 2 days for a guest driver would be greedy. Wow, great chunks of time being taken off our race leader, but it doesn't matter 22 seconds last time around. Here's Mazasis taking probably another, might be another half second off it, but it doesn't matter because Marilyn Niederhauser is on to the final lap of the race. The race will be 1 hour in endurance. In fact, yesterday didn't quite meet that because we had the red flag a few laps before the end of the hour that brought the race to a premature conclusion. But for Marilyn Niederhauser, she was given a very, very firm foundation. Her gap is only down to just under 21 seconds now, but it's still a sizable win. So Marilyn's just got to reel off the rest of this lap under no pressure to make any mistakes whatsoever. Down the bottom end of the circuit, out of turn 10, the hairpin. Now you run the lower leg. Top leg of the circuit down to turn 10 is the upper part. The lower part, there is a climb in it. She's about to reach that now. You get to turn 13, turn up the hill, but it's the part lower in the valley, or the side of the valley. So what a couple of days for Patrick Niederhauser and Marilyn Niederhauser. Yesterday Marilyn started the race, then Patrick got in and absolutely flew at the end. They took maximum points. Hamza Avega beat them on the circuit in his Racing 1 Audi. He's going to rise up to third place. He's in third place today. Won't have enough time to make it up to second, but he doesn't take any points at all. He's entered only as a guest driver, not entered for the championship. And this duo, the Niederhauser squared combination, they are going to go away with maximum points 2 days running. Thoroughly deserved. Yesterday it was a fight for them to come up through the order. Patrick really had to work hard. But today, there's the checkered flag. It's all theirs. Victory and maximum points 2 days running for Marilyn Niederhauser, Patrick Niederhauser. There's Patrick, far more experienced, but as a boyfriend-girlfriend combination, double victory tactic. You could see him grabbing a set of headphones. It has a radio. He wants to speak to Marilyn on her cooling down lap. And here is Benjamin Mazatis. Such is the advantage of the race winner. It's going to be about 20 seconds, I would think. 18.77 seconds back to Mazatis. Hamza Avega, what a fruitful time he's had. Third today, first yesterday. And then comes the cluster of cars. Luca Volgarden doing just enough to take fourth ahead of the Sin of Vlachkov. Should be David Clare. Yes, he's crossed the line in sixth. Then Giuseppe Fascicolo fell back in the final few laps to seventh place. And Jörg Wiebahn, that's him going through. Freddie Fast should be next in the Lechner Motorsport Mercedes. You could just see it. But really today belonged to the Niederhausers. Marilyn, who finished it off, and Patrick, who gave her such an advantage. More than half a minute clear when he came in to make a late pit stop. He was always going to do the lion's share of the working, to go to about 33 minutes, leave 27 minutes of, track time, about 25 minutes after the pit stops to Marilyn, and she didn't put a wheel wrong. She was happy yesterday, and really that has set up their season very nicely indeed. So two very happy Swiss racers. And it wasn't a sweat for Patrick. I mean, he drove just metronomically, not just fast, but lap after lap, almost the same lap time. Wonderful drive from Patrick and from Marilyn Niederhauser. Victory today by more than 18 and a half seconds from the Hollinger Ryder KTM that really went well in the hands of Benjamin Mazatis in the second part of the race. Hamza Avega, problem at the start, but he worked his way from last up to third place for the guest entry. Then Luca Volgarten and Moritz Österreich, they could be proud of their fourth place. They fought, and they fought very hard. And the best of the solo drivers was in fifth place overall. It was even Vlachkov in the Sin, so he enjoyed another good run. But it really was all about the number 26 crew. So KTM's first and second, but out clear by a long way. That driver, the man on the right, Patrick Niederhauser, going down to greet Marilyn Niederhauser in Parc Fermé. It's been a very good couple of days for the duo. So third place, whatever the problem was on the rolling start, Hamza Avega didn't let it fluster him. He had to chase after the pack, catch up with the pack, and eventually start overtaking. And he worked his way up by the end into third place. Mazatis and Corpivaro, they had to work their way up through the order in the first part of the race in Corpivaro's hands. Then Mazatis was really mighty, got up to second and stayed there. But Marilyn and Patrick Niederhauser had the race entirely under control. And just look how happy people are down in Parc Fermé, almost wherever you finished on this hot day. But Niederhauser's 1 and 2, boyfriend and girlfriend, happy, happy, happy. Look at that, that is a big championship lead. Maximum points yesterday, maximum points today. Can't tell if Marilyn's laughing or crying or doing both at the same time. And that's the second place pairing of Merzatis and Corpivara. They look pretty happy with life too. They had a good chase too. And for a lot of the drivers, having to work their way through the pack, it also taught them how to do overtaking on a track where it's really rather hard to do so. So every passing move was hard worked. And good to see the companionship down there in Park Fermé. And the top AM finisher, just to do my homework, was Ivan Vlachkov. It's Pro-Am and AM pairings in this championship. Ivan, in 5th place overall, takes the AM honours. So for Hamza Ovega, he's been short on experience, but he's gaining it fast, and having raced at Zolder in the European Championship, more useful track time for him here. She had the smiliest face yesterday, and it looks just as happy today. It's great to see so many female racers doing well. We had Michelle Halder finishing in 2nd place in the ADAC TCR, absolutely on merit today. So great to see female drivers going so well indeed. You can just sense the adrenaline that's still coursing through Marilyn's veins. And the Racing One crew very happy with Hamza Ovega. Still intrigued to know why he was so slow away at the rolling start. Maybe he just wanted the challenge. Well, that's interesting. He wasn't entirely sure that he finished 3rd, but he'll take that. Didn't quite pick up from Hamza there what the problem was at the start, but it clearly was something fairly comprehensive. I wonder if he knocked off a switch or something. Killed the engine. That's complete guesswork though. 25, that was a good run for the Hollinger Reiter team. Certainly Ilmari Corpivara had lots of fighting to do, and then Benjamin Merzatis had some as well, as the car went ever towards the front of the field. Ended up in 2nd place though. So happy faces beneath the podium. Just waiting for the crews to be called up. Thomas Enger, greatest Czech racing driver. Well, maybe perhaps Elizabeth Junek back in the 1920s and 30s, but obviously Thomas got Formula One. But he's been so instrumental in Reiter engineering and getting these crossbows out to racing, and it's been the backbone of GT4 for the past 3 or 4 seasons across boat. Many young drivers coming up through the young Reiter engineering scholarship schemes and bringing on young teams as well. But Thomas, you see him at a race, if it's a 24-hour race, he'll be on the pit wall all 24 hours. He's just a bundle of energy, loves his racing. If he can bring on some young Czech stars as well, all the better.
Von der Pace her hat es super gepasst. Ja. Und von daher war immer noch konstant 30 Sekunden Vorsprung. Also wirklich super gefahren.
Ich bin sehr vorsichtig gefahren, dass ich keine Fahrer. Ich habe jedes Mal eine Sekunde verloren, aber ich habe gedacht, ich fahre ein.
It's just amazing the difference between a driver who's had half an hour to relax during the race. That's Patrick after his brilliant opening stint. Now they're being called up. Marilyn's still bubbling away, and so she should really. It's been a phenomenal weekend for her. Thomas doesn't know how many fingers or thumbs to hold up. He'll do the 2 for 2nd place and the 1 for 1st. So it was quite a day. The 2nd race, the first ever round of the GT4 Central European Cup. Mercedes mixed in with the KTMs, the Porsches, the Maseratis. Smiles around, and the one and only Sin. That was going to make its mark early in the race. But away from pole position, Patrick Niederhauser had it just completely under control. Tucked in behind one of the 2 Allied Racing Porsches. But it's the crossbows making their moves up the field. Matthias Drescher in number 24, really, really mighty. But in the early stages of the race, the number 18 was driven very well by Moritz Österreich, and he made it difficult for anyone to get past in a straight line. Absolutely mighty in that Pro Sport Cayman. As you can see, Matthias Drescher took no for an answer from anybody. And again, favourite passing position. Get the climb right out of turn 13, pull off the move by turn 15. Pit stop time, even Vlachkov stayed on board. And then it was the turn of David Klaar to get stuck in the mix, fighting against the Viorba course. Maserati. One of the last cars to make its pit stop was Patrick Niederhauser. He built up a lead of 32 seconds before handing over to girlfriend Marilyn, who was very quickly on board the car. See the other cars making their pit stops. And then Benjamin Mazatis in the Hollinger, number 25 KTM, really forcing his way up the order. Sideways moment there for Giuseppe Fascicolo, but no problem at all for Patrick Niederhauser and girlfriend Marilyn. Out she hops. Delight all round from the Reiter crew, because they have a big championship lead after the opening round. 2 days, 2 hauls of maximum points. So these are the watches being handed out from Certina for the drivers in both the Pro-Am and Am classes for taking pole position. And then we'll wait for the main podium ceremony. Just waiting for all the drivers to get into position, all the trophy presenters. Everything appears to be set. So let's welcome. They were 4th on the track, but guest driver Hamza Ovega doesn't score points, so he doesn't get to the podium. So 3rd place points go to Moritz Osterreich and Luca Volgarten. It's been a good haul for them this weekend. And then Benjamin Mazatis and Ilmari Korpivara up to 2nd place for the Hollinger Reiter crew. Korpivara followed out by Mazatis, so Finn followed by German. But it's 2 Swiss drivers who'll be taking the top step of the podium, as they did yesterday. Patrick Niederhauser kicked it off, gave a half-minute advantage. And Marilyn Niederhauser, his girlfriend, coming out just in front of him. What a weekend they've had up to the top step of the podium. You know, they could get rather used to this. So off the national anthem for the K-Racing Reiter team. Trophies, 2 more trophies. Luca Volgarten and Moritz Osterreich picked up 2 yesterday, or 1 yesterday, 1 today. That's presented from Pirelli, tyre supplier to the GT4 series. Ilmari Korpivara and Benjamin Mazatis gets 2nd place trophies, but the ones that really count, the largest ones of all, the winners' trophies to Patrick Niederhauser and the driver who brought it home, his girlfriend, Marilyn Niederhauser. And the trophy to the winning entrant, which is Reiter Engineering. So there we have it. 2 days of racing here. The GT4 Central European Cup most definitely has been launched. The sunshine has been fabulous. The circuit has been absolutely enthralling, most Autodrome, and it's been really good fun. We look forward very much to covering the next round of the championship. Do make sure you come and join us. It's been fun. We promise you some more cars next time out, but we can't promise you a smile as large as that on the face yesterday and today of Marilyn Niederhauser. Maximum points both days running.